Sorry for that, everyone. A little snafu. Hey, everyone, what is going on? It is Friday afternoon here in sunny and very hot Southern California. It is Friday night or early Friday evening over there on the East Coast. It might even be Saturday, depending on where you are in the world. But no matter where you are, you know what time it is. It is time for a little bit of Cinema Crusaders right here on Comic Crusaders. Uh, I am your host, Nim, also known as David Howard, and you can see my beautiful wife. Hold on, I'm going to turn my camera off for just a second. There you go. You can still hear me as she brings in something hot to drink. Thank you, my love. And you also saw my beautiful dog Cookie there in the background. Hold on, I'm coming back online. Give me 1 second. Camera is coming back on. There I am. So, yes. Where was I? Oh, yes. I'm your host, Nim, also known as David Howard, and I am a writer, comic creator, and podcaster, as you can see for what I am doing here. I just want to announce that I am on the verge of going to pre-launch on my new comic, Space Monkeys. So, I hope that you all will go and take a look at the pre-launch page and please sign up for notifications. I will be starting to promote that on next week's show for all of you. But enough of that at the moment. We are about to get into an experience, man. This movie, ExistenZ, from 1999. I picked this off a list of the best sci-fi movies. I've got a lot to say about that. I have never seen this movie till then, but this is a David Cronenberg movie. But before we get into the movie, I need to introduce to you one of my co-hosts. I am talking about none other than Steve Shadewing Sellers. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing all right. This movie is a WTF moment after WTF moment.
Yeah.
And even kind of like knowing a little bit about where Cronenberg was coming from, it's just like,
well,
this is weird. This movie's weird.
And then I went down the rabbit hole of looking more into David Cronenberg and a bunch of other stuff, and then seeing some of the point. We'll get to it. Don't worry. I was like, what in the name of Cronenberg is going on here? So,
Yeah.
So, just to sum up this movie for you all real quick, at its heart, the plot of the movie, and we're going to do things a little out of order here because I'm sure we're going to have a long discussion on the look of the movie, but also some of the plot points of the movie. But the general plot of the movie is that a game designer named Allegra Geller, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, is debuting her new game on these biotech consoles. And these biotech consoles, whoo, boy howdy, we're going to talk about them at some point. But they plug into you, and you design these games. They don't ever specifically say the year, I think, but in the description it says it's 2030. I'm glad that nothing like this is even close to hitting the market yet, I hope. So they have these games, and then you go into the game, and these people are trying to kill her. You know, they're saying death to the game designers, and Jude Law is there to protect her, but not protect her because he's really only a marketing guy, and she thought he was security. And then they're on the run, and they meet a variety of different people, and then go Inception style down another layer within the game. So they're in the game within the game, and they're figuring out, trying to what's going on and get through the game and win the game. And long story short, eventually they emerge from the game, but do they really? I think that is, if you're confused, I'm confused. So,
yep.
But I think at its heart, that is what the movie is about, to its core. The amazing thing about this movie, and this is where we're going to start in just a second, is that the cast is fantastic. I don't know who blackmailed who to get the people that they did on this cast, because I just want to read this out real quick. this movie came out in 1999, so it was filmed in 1997, but it only had a budget of $30 million, and some of the names in here are absolutely incredible. And then the movie had a budget of $30 million, and it made $5 million total. So, yeah. So,
yeah, you got people like Christopher Eccleston, Ian Holm, Jude Law, Jennifer Jason Leigh. I mean, this is not like a small time cast.
No, it's not. And I got to imagine that somehow they were convinced to sign on to do this movie for not a lot of money, because there's a decent amount of design work and special effects that went into this as well. Not a whole bunch, but there's a decent amount. So it can't be super cheap.
I imagine there are people that just said, you know what, it's a David Cronenberg movie.
Right.
I'm just going to be in it because it's a David Cronenberg movie.
Yeah. I
would not fault them for that.
I would imagine that is correct, but wow. All right. We'll get to that in a moment. So let's start with the cast and just talk about their performances, minus what we're going to talk about the movie itself, because that's where I'm going to save that for last or towards the end. So let's start out.
You have no idea what this movie's about while you're watching it. So,
yeah.
Is it really going to help you?
Yeah. Let's start with the two main actors, and I'm going to kick it over to you first. What did you think of the performances and the chemistry between Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh?
It definitely seemed like they were trying to push the romance between the two characters, but I like the twist of it. Jude Law is one of those actors that can really give you 100%. I loved him in Gattaca.
Yep.
I've enjoyed him in a lot of other different things that he's done over the years. And he's always had really great chops. And this is like Jude Law before he became absolutely huge, or at least this was kind of around where he was starting to get huge.
Right.
Same with Jennifer Jason Leigh. I will say that the 90s was kind of where she peaked, and then you stopped hearing from her except for rare exceptions.
Yeah.
Like The Hateful Eight and things like that. So we are dealing with that kind of period of time, and I felt like they worked together. I didn't have an issue with that, especially some of the weird stuff that they were doing. She's playing footsies with his umbilical cord.
Yeah,
at various points and things like that, and it's you know what this movie is going for.
Yeah.
And honestly, I really would not be surprised if Cronenberg has the same kind of foot fetish that Quentin Tarantino does. Because there are a lot of footsie shots. A lot of them.
It's more than that, but we're going to get to that. Don't worry. I will say for myself, I thought they were perfectly acceptable. I don't know that they had the best on-screen chemistry together, but it wasn't bad,
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the on-screen chemistry was a little weird because the story is a little weird. So is
this whole movie.
Yeah. So.
Perfect.
Yeah. But Jude Law is a standout for me. I mean, I like Jennifer Jason Leigh, but Jude Law is good, and he just seems to excel in everything that I've seen him in. And this even in where he's a supporting role, like when he played Watson in those Sherlock Holmes movies, I think he's good. So I just think he's good at what he does. So
yeah, like Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get to two big names that were only in the movie for a while, for a very short while, and that would be William Dafoe and Ian Holm. Very surprised for me to see both of these guys in this movie. What did you think of them in the movie, though? So.
Yeah, I will say, with Eccleston, it was sort of yeah, he's going out in the first 10 minutes. I'm he just went en route to regenerate into David Tennant and get back out of the movie.
Yeah.
But he brings a lot of his usual charisma to it. This is before, a few years before Doctor Who.
Right.
But you can kind of see the promise of him as potentially the Ninth Doctor in this. Although he's putting on at first, this really kind of weird, I want to say Northeastern style accent.
Yeah.
And it actually is kind of passable, but I think the real thing is he lights up the stage whenever you see him, and that really I kind of felt worked. for the character he was playing at that time. And then and then you see Willem Dafoe is playing the character Gas, and it's like you can tell that this guy is sinister from the beginning, and half of it is like, okay, is it because he's played by Willem Dafoe, or is he just genuinely creepy? And the answer is yes, it's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
Well, I was really shocked too because of all the names in this movie, minus maybe Ian Holm, I think William Dafoe is the biggest name because he's coming off being the Green Goblin and Spider-Man movies as far as popular movies. He was in Platoon, about a decade before this, a bunch of other stuff. So it's like
Mississippi Burning, all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, and he's showing up in this. So I'm like, okay. By the way, for one thing I forgot to mention, spoiler alert, everybody. At the end of the movie, we come to find out when we meet our characters at the beginning of the movie that they were already in game, and that they actually go up another level by the end of the movie. And turns out that the game designer, who we thought was the game designer, was not really the game designer. She's married to the guy who was supposed to protect her, and we don't even know for sure whether they're out of the game at that point. Though I have my theory, and we're going to do that question at the end. I'm going to ask
the movie itself asked that question at the very end, which I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
They really are trying to leave you with an absolute mind F.
Mike Nunley, we know Mike, says Cronenberg has said his films are movies of confrontation. I think this was a movie of frustration, but that's just my personal opinion.
I enjoyed it. It was weird, but I enjoyed it.
I had to turn my brain off with some things, and then now my brain is back on, and we're going to talk about them in a moment because I can't unsee them. I'm sorry. I can just suspend disbelief on a lot of things or suspend my brain on a lot of things. But sometimes when I see stuff, I'm like, look, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And I know when I'm being bullshitted. So, I got to not call it out because there's nothing to call out. It's just say what I observe. So anyway, those are the main members of the cast. We had David Exto, Ian Holm. We have William Dafoe, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Jude Law. But I would say overall, the entire cast and the directing performance is really good. It's a weird story. It's a weird movie, but I don't think there's any technical flaws or acting flaws in it. So
no, and the more I think about it, like Willem Dafoe probably was like, it was either like a personal favor that was called in, or it's I really want to work with David Cronenberg.
Yeah, it's like you see this, I guess, from time to time with somebody calls in a personal favor and they show up at an indie film or something. I've actually seen that, like Corbin Benson and Lori Petty in a small indie film. They had a budget of like $50,000, and the two of them were in significant parts of the movie. I'm like, how the heck did you pull that off? So, all right. So we've talked about the cast. We briefly touched on the plot. I'm going to ask the $85,000 question right at the top. I know what my answer is, but I want to hear what your answer is. At the very end of the movie, Jude Law's character, so Allegra Geller and Ted, both pulled guns on one of the other members who was part of the test. And he was at various parts of the game. This movie really could be said to be like a precursor to Inception as far as the concept, the general concept. But they pull the gun on the guy and they're about to shoot him, and he's not super scared. He's like, are we still in the game? And then we fade to black, and that's the end. So, Steve, at that point, are they still in the game? And depending on your answer, why or why not are they still in the game, in your opinion?
I'm honestly not sure. There are a couple of things that kind of lean me towards them not being in the game, but them thinking that maybe they are. And one of it is that they're using actual guns or not using like the bone guns that we've been seeing up until that point.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Like they were using actual like believable pistols. And I'm like, so either that is the game and they pulled a twist in some way, or something else is going on. So it's hard to tell, but because it does seem like they're trying to play either, okay, they're in the game and who knows, but the fact that they're asking the question, I think they gave you just enough to kind of make an argument either way to a certain extent, but it's really tough. It's really tough. Cronenberg really mind up me with this.
Yeah, once again, like the end of Inception with the spinning top. It's like, well, did it fall or not fall? My opinion is they are out of the game. I believe, and this is just my opinion, although your point about the guns is a really great one that I had not thought about before, and it makes a lot of sense. Hold on. We got a great comment from Mike here. It says, it sounds like a question of what reality is defined by. Perhaps the confrontation is, how do you really know what is real? Well, that is the point.
But how do you know what is real, Neo?
Yes. I think the other point for me that, what I got out of that is, I don't think they have the capability anymore based on them using these game systems to know what is real or not real. And in that way, I know you're a fellow gamer.
Yes.
I think that it is a very good critique on gaming culture sometimes, where you can get lost in a game. And oftentimes when you play a game, especially games like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, you're playing a complete psychopath or a sociopath sometimes. You could do whatever the hell you want. And it's like, if the lines between reality and the game become so blurred where you can't define what is real and not real readily, and you're used to that kind of being able to act that kind of way, or it becomes your new reality, does it really matter what is real and not real? You're just going to act that way all the time. So I think that's
Westworld dealt the TV show, at least the first season when it was really good, really dealt with that. And especially particularly with the Ed Harris character. I mean, that guy was basically, I've kind of lost all touch with reality, and I'm basically going to be a psychopath to everybody around me. I don't care that these things are robots. I'm just going to treat them like crap because I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they're trying to do with this.
And so while there are a lot of weird things about this movie, and there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about coming up, it does raise some really interesting questions, so I can't say it's a good movie. Or a bad movie. I just got to say it's a weird movie. It's one of those movies that you need to watch and experience, but it is,
I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of enjoyment, I got that. But it's so freaking weird that I can't make heads or tails of it, at least not like this soon after having seen it.
Okay. I'm just going to put this out there, and it's going to segue into our next discussion, because we're going to start talking about design and some themes that I uncovered. When I read the description of this movie and I was looking for a movie for us to watch, it said, it's playing on themes like from Johnny Mnemonic or The Matrix, or stuff like that. And so I was expecting one thing, and then I go in, so I'm expecting a gamer movie that's pure gamer, and I was like, okay. And that is not what I got. So it threw me for a loop right away. And one of the things that really got me, and bear with me, Steve, and I want your reaction to it, because I haven't told you this yet, behind the scenes or anything. So
sure.
When we first see the bio consoles, when they are flicking those things, I don't know if it was just me, but there is an inherently sexual element to the way they are handling those things, and the console is making these cooing noises, and the people are squirming. So right off the bat, I'm like, what the bleep am I looking at? And then the console is attached to your body with something that looks like an umbilical cord, like an actual human umbilical cord. So I'm like, okay. And then they go to William Dafoe's character, and I'm like, my mind is already like, but I'm adjusting. I'm like, well, this is the reality. It's kind of a weird vision, but okay. And they go to William Dafoe's character and like, oh, he's going to put a bioport into Ted, to Jude Law's character. And I'm like, okay, bioport. I'm like, I'm down with that, and I'm expecting one thing. And then they put the bioport in, and we get our first look at a bioport. And damned if I am not convinced that that is a second butthole in the middle of your bed.
It was definitely like a sexual opening of some kind.
Yeah, it looks like a butthole, folks. I'm not kidding you. I throw it up, but YouTube will probably censor us. It looks exactly like a butthole. And then, at one point, Jude Law character, in a central moment, goes to lick the butthole of Jennifer Jason Leigh, the bioport. And then they're looping it up and fingering it and doing stuff to it. I'm like, the hell am I looking at? And then I come out to find out that David Cronenberg was an activist for alternative lifestyles. And I'm like, I don't want to put stuff on a movie where it's not explicitly saying it's there, but I'm looking at this going, I think we're advocating for something.
Yeah, something's going on. Oh no! I was thinking like, yeah, I think the way I kind of put it to Mike Nunnally was like Videodrome by way of H.R. Giger.
Yeah,
it was that kind of thing where you're like jacking into these things, but it's the way that they're doing it is not with like technology. It's not like cyberpunk. It's more like biopunk, to be honest. And the way that they do this, and it's just like, they're fingering these consoles, and it's just like they definitely look like they're pleasuring themselves when they're playing this game. And not only that, I mean, it almost seems like when they're putting in the bioport, it's almost like a metaphor for like taking someone's virginity. That's what I got out of this. Like, Cronenberg has put in like every weird sexual connotation he can into this stuff, and it's just freaking weird.
And maybe that's the point. Maybe the whole point was to make us uncomfortable. I wouldn't put it past him to be like, I'm going to make this as uncomfortable for everybody, and then making them ask themselves, how did a society get to the point where they're accepting this? So it's just normal. So
and I think this is what I think Mike's point was, talking about how he does confrontation. He's confronting you with the most uncomfortable crap that he can find, just to mess with you and mess with your head. And it definitely did that.
You also touched on something else that I'm going to throw to you in a second. Throughout this movie, and you hit on Geiger and the whole concept of like biotech and everything, but everything until we actually get up to what may or may not be reality, where it's actual a technological solution at the top level, which is another reason why I think they may actually be in reality, because it's like plastic and chips and electrical wires and stuff. Until we get to that point, all the technology is mostly based around mutation or taking apart specifically grown amphibians, and the gun is shooting molars and stuff like that. So what did you think of that? What did you think of the design? Because someone had to design all that and everything. What did you think?
Why would you design that? Why would somebody come to with the idea of, yes, I'm going to turn my fish dinner and the bones that are left from my fish dinner and make that into a weapon? Like, what was going through someone's head to think, yes, this is what I want to make my weapons out of. I want to make it out of like my discarded meal. Mm-hmm. What the hell? What the hell is this movie?
Yeah, it is really strange. But, Mike has an interesting point. And I think this is a great point. Mm-hmm. I think this is an incredible point right here. It's interesting. In Videodrome, dude's stomach becomes a slot for the VHS tapes. I've heard about that. Combined with this, it seems like Cronenberg is exploring our connection to the entertainment we consume.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Sure. And he wanted to outdo John Wick's pencil. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's really pushing us on a lot of stuff. I still think, I could have gone my entire life without seeing one scene from season 2, episode 1 of Peacemaker, and then fingering this guy's butthole by a port. So,
I will add a little bit from at least from some of the outside stuff that I've seen. Cronenberg was talking about the question of our game's art. I mean, and it seems like with this movie, he was doing that decades before that became a commonplace question. Like, before like all these MMORPGs and things like that. Cronenberg was actually doing all that. this is kind of like the era of like late Ultima Online, things like that.
Right.
And so he's kind of like ahead of the curve on this question, more than a lot of people.
Well,
And I always felt that yes, games are art, and so he's kind of like exploring like the artistic process of that, and essentially, you know, what the consumer and, you know, the end user's relationship with it is, and how it affects them. So yeah, I can definitely see that.
I agree with you. There's a big surprise. I'm a gamer as well. That games are art. I also think it's interesting that at this time, games were being dominated by an era that would die out. But at this time, you were getting a lot of the virtual life stuff was starting to come into being. This was the last gasp of FMV games, full motion video games, you know, before they went away. So people were really leaning
Also,
into
the birth of the immersive sim, things like Deus Ex.
Yeah. So it was definitely a different thing. I would argue, you know, I'm one of those people who's not a big fan of multiplayer as a general rule. I'm like
I'm
more
not
of an
either.
immersive experience, you know, where I could dive in and I don't have to worry about some 12-year-old trying to do a Fortnite dance every time he does something. So, but that's just grumpy Nim talking.
Give me Baldur's Gate 3 any day of the week.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got all these weird, strange concepts, but then we keep alluding to this revolution that's going to happen, and there's layers upon layers of the mind, and so I think one of the interesting things about this movie, and I'm curious what you think about this is one of those movies that is rife with the possibility for infinite interpretations and fan theories, and it was almost like it was written to be a cult classic because every single person watching this movie can have a different idea of what any particular scene means and what the greater meaning of the movie is. So,
yeah, I mean, did any of it really happen or not? How much of it really happened? I mean, you know, what you know, particularly is going on. I mean, you really don't even get a sense of who the identities of our main characters are until very later, and we don't get very much of that. Yeah, I will say, interestingly enough, when I heard the name Allegra Geller, I'm like, Allegra is actually the first name of Lord Byron's daughter, who was actually a major figure in computing. So that was not chosen by accident, I'm pretty sure.
And not only that, Allegra has been used in various other TV shows in the science fiction aspect for people who are against the rise of technology. So,
yeah.
So they've done a lot of stuff with that. Where was I going to go? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so with this movie, I got to ask a question before we move on to the next thing, though. With everything you've seen, with the design and everything, with the concept, with the plot points we talked about, you know, what they've hit on socially and what he's commenting on with art, you know, I think Mike's point is valid and is a good one. Our connection to technology. Do you think this movie, A, was worth watching? B, would you recommend it to other people? And C, is this something you would want to watch again? Or is this like, I've watched it, I've got this checked off, I'm good?
It's kind of a complicated question. Is it worth watching? I would say yes. I don't regret having seen it. Is it worth rewatching? I think it depends what you're rewatching it for. If you're rewatching it because you want to get a sense of what the hell happened, you know, to try to get multiple reviewings to see, sort of get a better understanding of it, I think that's absolutely valid. You can totally do that with this movie. I really, I don't have any issues really with that. What was the other question that you had?
Would you recommend it to other people?
Oh, would I recommend it? It depends on who. You know, if I know somebody's like really into like really out there, really weird stuff, or at least interested in that, I would probably recommend it for that. I would just say like, check your expectations at the door. This is not typical sci-fi movie. You're into something bizarre because then honestly, like if you're a Cronenberg fan, you've probably already seen it.
See, the thing for me is, I think all three of those questions are yes. With this proviso for me is that yes, it was worth watching. Yes, I would recommend to other people. Yes, I might possibly rewatch it again, you know, if I wanted to like dive into the themes more and everything. But with the proviso that I went into this movie thinking this was a science fiction movie where I'm getting, uh, the more fantastic science fiction as far as pew pew and action and all that kind of
That's
stuff.
not this movie.
And this is the kind of science fiction that you're sitting there and you need to like have a cigarette if you smoke and really think about this movie while drinking some brandy or something afterwards, so and contemplate what's going on.
Yeah, if you're looking for dumb action, a Cronenberg movie is not what you want to put in your Blu-ray player.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So, and I will freely admit that prior to this, I don't know that I've watched. I think the only David Cronenberg movie I've watched is The Fly.
I haven't even seen that. Yeah, I know
yeah.
This is heresy, and Mike knows that I'm a total heretic on this.
Yeah. Besides The Fly, my basic experience with David Cronenberg was the fact that in Rick and Morty they've got the Cronenberg world, where everybody's like a grotesque, version of themselves. So I guess that should have prepared me a little bit. So that was
I would have expected at least like body horror type stuff because that's really what he's known for. But beyond that, I really didn't have any real expectations.
Yeah, I really wasn't sure what to expect, and I think just saying that, I think it might be worth it while for me to revisit a second time because I think it's fair to say, I don't know if you felt this way, but I was shocked through a lot of this movie. It took me a long time to like put aside the shock that I had at what I was watching and what was going on to really kind of like focus on what I was dealing with at the moment. Because I was like, what? I was seriously sitting there at one point going, what the hell am I watching right now? So
yeah, I really had to do a lot of pauses. Like, what did I just watch? What am I trying to process here? Yeah. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are certain movies, Human Centipede, where I really don't want to ever go back and revisit that again. I'm good. So I watched it once, and I'm done.
I never want to see Requiem for a Dream again because that messed me up.
Is that the Robin Williams one?
No, that's one. It's with Jared Leto and I want to say Jennifer Connelly and some other people. It's a drug. It's a drug movie, and it's like you're watching 4 people destroy their lives. Like,
wow,
it's really well done, but it's messed up.
I was thinking, what is the Robin Williams movie where his wife commits suicide, and then when he dies, he goes down into hell to try and rescue her? It's like
what
a Catholic.
What dreams may come, and I think it was based on Dante's Inferno, if I remember right.
Yeah, it is, and it's an interesting. That is, once again, we're talking about different.
Another Matheson story, by the way.
Yeah, and it's a very Catholic movie. I know a lot of people are. It is well, maybe we'll do that movie in the future sometime. So. Now I've lost my train of thought again. So on this movie, like I said, this movie was not a box office success, but that got me thinking. I think there are certain movies that get made and they never intend for them to box office success. They just want to make the movie. And that's the feeling I get from this movie. I don't think that there were many compromises here on what Cronenberg's vision. What do you think about that idea?
So. It is absolutely an auteur-driven movie. No question about that. I think David Cronenberg is one of those people that it's like he's making the movies for the art of it. He's not really necessarily thinking about the money, except to the extent that he can get the movie made. And he doesn't like completely drive himself broke making it. I think absolutely what mattered to him was his vision, making sure it was as well realized as he could make it. And I respect that.
Yeah, which really then begs a question for me. Because I remember seeing The Fly, and I saw it as a kid, right around the time it came out. I think I saw it on VHS, so whenever it came out on VHS. And, but it was so different from like, whatever, was it the 50s or 60s version? I think it was a 50s movie of The Fly. And it was so grotesque and so disturbing to see, God, why am I blanking on him? Not Ian Malcolm.
Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum's character devolve and turn into The Fly and see all of this. But now thinking back, Cronenberg has this definite cinema of the grotesque thing
Mm-hmm.
that, at least from those two movies, it seems like he loves to explore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if there's a deeper meaning to that and what you think about that. So,
Well, it could be, and I will add that apparently it seems to be so deep that even his son has made movies along those lines. So this is whatever is driving it. I would say it's pretty deep psychologically,
yeah.
but as to exactly what, I'm not sure.
Well, it's interesting. It's almost like, especially with what he's doing with science fiction, it's almost like he wants to he doesn't want to put the patina of nicety or acceptability on anything. He wants to show it to you raw, and he wants to show it to you in its most alarming form. It's like The Fly. I remember the old Fly movie. The guy came out and he just had kind of like a fly head. And granted, it was an old movie, but everything. But spoiler alert for you here. And I'm not going to spoil the whole movie, but in the Jeff Goldblum Fly, he is really disturbing looking. And at some point, he starts getting actual fly powers where he can like spit up on people and it dissolves it, and then he can eat. It's like, once again, it was one of those movies I watched as a kid, as a teenager. I'm like, what the hell did I just watch? So
Yeah. I mean, this
um,
is a movie that asks, whether or not the idea of something has grown so powerful and so dangerous that it's bent reality, and that reality bending itself makes you ask whether or not the creator deserves to die for creating such a thing.
yeah.
And we are seeing, what the psychological effects of ExistenZ has been. These people are completely out of touch of reality, assuming we're going with the idea that they're out of the game, and they're openly killing people, on the basis of this. Is that something
Well,
that is worth killing for? That's an interesting question.
well, sir, you are a master of the segue, because
Mm-hmm.
that was the last segment I wanted to get into for this movie. And it's not really a segment about the movie, but it's a discussion more about technology. And this is something we've talked about with other science fiction stuff we've been involved in, transhumanism. And I want to talk about it specifically around one thing that is quickly moving towards FDA approval and will start to be installed. So we've already got smart glasses and virtual reality and those types of things. But Neuralink is a thing. And Neuralink jacks right into your brain and alters your perception of things. And pretty soon they're going to be able to probably give you corneal implants that will be able to do things. And they can already do stuff. The Consumer Expo show was this week, where they have a new mouse where it's just basically just a series of plastic or pads that you put on your fingers, and it just reads electrical impulses from your fingers to control technology, to control the mouse and the computer. There's no reason why that eventually couldn't be a dermal implant under your skin, and things are just going in that direction. So, my question to you is, as we go to this technology and then you start to see or imagine, because you're a writer, all of the different
Mm-hmm.
problems, do you think, A, that there are people out there right now who are thinking this needs to be stopped and maybe someone needs to be killed? B, do you think it can be stopped? Or C, do you think it's a good future?
I don't definitely see that we're really heading towards a good future. I don't know that anybody would have that kind of an idea, though.
Yeah.
I'm just not feeling that, or at least I don't think there are enough people. So I don't think there are enough people awake to it for it to go that way yet. That's not to say that it couldn't happen. I hope for
Yeah.
God it doesn't, because that's dangerous. But that's always the thing with science fiction. It always warns you of the dangers that could potentially happen. And that is definitely the case for what Cronenberg did with this movie. I mean, you know, oh, let me look at that. There is a deeper meaning. Cronenberg believes that life is precious because death is absolute for him because he's an atheist. Oh, okay. Interesting. So he focuses on the tragedy of death through the decay of the body. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't share that view. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. But I can see why he would think that. Yeah.
See, for me, when I think about these kind of issues, and I look at like stuff for coming out of the Consumer Expo and things like that, I think that the rate of technological advance in AI is exponential at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has gone well beyond linear, and is just going exponential. And
we got too many. We got too many people that are basically saying the opposite of what Ian Malcolm would say. Which is the idea that we can do this. We have the technology, we can do this. We don't care about whether we should or or they're just so arrogant that they don't realize the potential dangers of this. And I was also just as a quick note, I was thinking also of the Cybermen, with the idea that they've been presented in recent years as like the parallel evolution of an idea that that technology can shape or control people's lives, and the absolute control that should have, completely emotionless, and presenting that as like a parallel idea between different worlds. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some of that going on in this movie.
See, I think that this is, in some ways, is an early version or early warning towards a lot of what we're talking about here and what is reality. But I also think there is another property that has been out for a while. Let's see what Mike said here. Everybody forgets the Skynet believers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that with the rate of technology is going, that and the way that people adopt technology now, because technology has become trendy, and trends they go viral. They're like viruses, and they catch on, and then the next thing you know, your friend is getting an implant in his head, and you're like, what are you doing? So
virus, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. But no, the IP that I think that we're moving towards, and I honestly believe that it could be a reality sooner rather than later, is cyberpunk. I really honestly believe that cyberpunk, that whole setting, could be a reality, even with the way the corporations are more powerful than the governments and everything else. So
Cyberpunk 2077 is a very scary future in many ways, because it is very plausible.
Yeah. And it feels, like you said, it feels plausible. This movie, for as much as, we've talked about it, and I've come to realize there's a lot of really good messages in here, because we've gone the whole biotech route, and I don't understand why you would ever really do that. It doesn't feel as like a plausible future. It feels like a warning, or a message.
It depends on how it's done. I think the way that not to get too much into your stuff, but I think Blood World, for example, is a form of biopunk that is a little bit more plausible.
Yeah.
The way that Cronenberg is doing it in this movie, it's like, why the hell would you make a gun out of teeth? It's that kind of.
Yeah. Well, obviously, since I wrote Blood World, I would agree with you as far as people doing genetic engineering and leveraging those types of things. And, I can see, and you're right, there is some of that in there. I just don't see people wanting to put a butthole in their back. I can't get past the butthole in the back. I don't know what it is, man. I got an anal fixation when it comes to the back butthole. So
this movie has an anal fixation.
Yeah, I need
to go fixation.
I need to go find Jesus or a therapist or both. I don't know what is going on. So, all right. So let's get back to the movie, because we kind of went off on a tangent more to talk about what this movie made us think about. But I think it was important for us to do that. For everybody out there who hasn't seen that, if you're a fan of science fiction, I definitely think you should see this movie, because it's going to make you think. And I think that you can already see it's one of the things that made us think. It's one of those movies that you experience, and it's a little uncomfortable at times. It's a lot uncomfortable at times, but it's something that made us think about some different topics. That said, let's do a quick rundown on how we feel about the movie for grade-wise. And we're going to go, because we got a little bit of time, so I want to go really look into the some different categories. So first, I'll start. Cinematography. I don't think anything blew my socks off cinematography-wise, but I think it was well directed. So I would give this movie a solid B+. What about you?
Yeah, it's really kind of hard because this movie is just so bizarre. It's hard to put your head around it. And how do you grade something that is so unquantifiable?
Yeah,
But B plus, low A minus is kind of like where my general thinking is. I
definitely.
do think there are some moments that are definitely well shot. I like the use of practical effects. There's definitely that there.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, it isn't like really amazingly done. You can definitely tell there was a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
They blew a lot of money into these actors, more than likely. So they're kind of making do with what they have, and doing a very good job of it. But it's still like there are still points where it shows.
Yeah, and I don't think the whole point of the movie was to be walking away from it going, "This is the most beautiful movie I've ever seen," and
Yeah.
whatever. And
Do
this
not
is a
expect Ang Lee.
yeah. All right, I'm going to start with you. Go to you first. The screenplay, the writing of the movie. What would you grade it?
It gets a special category of WTF. Yeah, this is not one of those movies that you can judge in the same way that you can judge an MCU movie or something like that. You just can't. It's just, I mean, it is extremely deep. It is extremely layered. It is extremely one of those things that just throws curveballs at you constantly. So I mean, if I absolutely had to, I'm going to say it's an A just because of how inventive it is.
Okay.
Just because of all that, this is definitely not a movie that you normally see. And David Cronenberg is a guy that I respect. So yeah, I think that works for me.
That's fair. I'm going to defer to you on the W2F grading because I think that's fair. I think I would give it an A minus, and the only reason I give it a minus is because I would like to rewatch it again, and I would love to see some interviews with Cronenberg about why he chose to make some of the elements of the technology so sexual. You know, I would love to know that because um, I think there's a couple different ways to go with that. That my thinking is, and I would like to know what he was thinking when he was writing that and understand it better to bump that up to the full A for me. So.
That's fair.
Okay, let's go, and I'll start with this one. I'm going to go with special effects, set design. There's not a whole lot to do here in set design. The set design is very, very basic. The special effects, though, for what they are, especially the makeup effects that they did with the bioport, I legitimately believed, and I'm sorry to go back. This is the last time I'm going to mention it. I legitimately believed that was a butthole in somebody's back. It looked real. I was disturbed. I was like, dude, you need to put a thong on that or something. I don't know what is going on. Um, so, but no, I mean, I think the makeup work is well done. I think that the effects work and the design on all of the props was really good. Disturbing, but good.
Mhm.
Once again, though, I almost wanted a commentary on a lot of the stuff. Like it's like, why did you make the game console have these nodules that they're flicking, and why all this stuff? I'm like, was there any thought to it, or you were just whatever came out of
Mhm.
the FX workshop? So grade wise, God, it's another one of those WTS for me, but I will give it an A minus because I've never seen anything like it before, and I don't know if I ever see anything like it again. So
Yeah.
even though it's very basic on the set design, the inventiveness and the ideas for how to build that stuff, I don't know where those ideas came from, but more power to you. What about you?
Yeah, I always have to say it's something similar. Definitely WTF is where I would go with this one too. Um, and the thing of it is, like a lot of the set design and things like that are very basic. I
Yeah.
will say I did laugh a little bit with the description of like some of the places. It's like yeah, country gas station. Like this generic sounding thing is the actual name of the place, and it actually is like on the walls and things like that. Yeah, the Chinese restaurant, like all this kind of thing. Like they put absolutely no thought whatsoever into those things, or at least they made it intentionally vague or generic.
However, I
On the
think that
other
that's on
hand,
purpose because they're in a game. So
yeah, probably. But I mean, there are a
yeah,
lot of games that actually have really well thought out like names for places. So
yeah,
and settings. So it's like, okay, that's a little weird. But on the other hand, on the other extreme from that, you have really weird, complex designs for the biopods. You get really interesting design for the bone gun. All these other things that just look very H.R. Giger-ish. That was kind of like where my first thought was.
right.
Just because a lot of Giger stuff is kind of like this, where it is very sexually suggestive in its design,
It
and
is.
so it's up there with that. Not quite as great as Giger is. Giger's work is iconic, and I think on the next level to this, but this is like maybe a step short.
All right. So then let's go right into our next subject. I'm going to kick it over to you first. What did you think of the overall level of acting in this movie from top to bottom? So stars to extras and everything in between. So
Oh, they were there. This is a top ranked cast doing top ranked work. This is not. This is somebody also. I mean, we're talking about a good director who knows what to get out of his actors and make it work for them. Yeah, I think the one thing is like with Jason Lee, and Jude Law. I mean, is their chemistry like that great? Not necessarily, but it works for what they were doing. And the unreality of it, I think, makes it more plausible, especially when we started realizing that, yeah, maybe what we saw happen isn't necessarily exactly what took place.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but then you get, people like Willem Dafoe and Christopher Eccleston, who are very memorable in the short time that they get. Not a lot of screen time, but they absolutely knock it out of the park. And you can tell Willem Dafoe was having a lot of fun in this role.
Agreed.
Which made his moments even better. Yeah, Ian Holm I think was really good. And I will say one thing I really did kind of like was that you have all these English actors or British actors doing non-British accents at various points in this movie, and then at the end they drop the accents for the real characters, and they all have their regular accents. So they were, even with that, they're kind of mind effing us.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're getting a lot of really interesting stuff out of this. I would say A casting for sure.
Yeah. I would agree, and I would just have to put my focus. I mean, the top cast is really good, but even the people that supported them, I thought were really good at what they did. Like Oscar Sue played the Chinese waiter, but
Yeah,
he's
he
in
was good.
various moments of him. He was good. Don McKellar played Yevgeny Nourish. I thought he was good. Who else we got? James Kirchner as Landry. There's another character in there. So, like throughout this whole thing, you've got a lot of supporting characters. Sarah Polly was the assistant at the end, Merle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they're really good at what they're doing. They fill the space well. It was obviously they well directed, so I would agree with you. I would give it an A as well. So, final thoughts. I'll start and then I'll kick it to you. Overall grade on the movie. Um, until I watch it again and get a better sense of it, I'm going to give the overall grade of the movie still an A minus. It's shocking and alarming, but I think that's the whole point. And it was worth watching, and I thought it was well done. So I'm going to give it an A minus. So how about you?
I will say overall, let's go with WTF again.
Yeah, they're fair.
That's fair. I mean, if I absolutely like at gunpoint with a bone gun had to answer that, it probably would be like an A minus to an A. But it's just this movie is just so far out of conventional expectations and conventional ways of thinking that I'm kind of reluctant to apply my usual standards to it.
Fair. That is very fair. All right, everybody. This has been our Cinema Crusaders review of ExistenZ. Because, as my friend Steve said, this is back in the 90s when proper grammar and everything was not cool.
Yeah, because poor literacy is cool. With
Yeah.
apologies to Linkara from across the fourth wall.
Just so that well, I'm going to ask you the question again, but so we're planning on doing horror. Do you want to do another science fiction movie next week, or do you want to jump right into horror and run it through Halloween? So
I'm thinking like let's do a segue, like maybe a sci-fi horror type movie.
Okay. I also want to announce to everybody that Mike Nunnally heard that we were doing horror for September and October for sure, and he asked if he could be part of those 2 months, and I agreed. So Mike will be joining us for Cinema Crusaders for the horror segment. So welcome as a crusader for a horror crusader, Mike. You're crusader for horror. So congratulations to you. You are now, we'll get you a t-shirt. We'll send it to you. Horror Crusader. You can wear it all the time and get strange looks. So Mike will be joining us. And obviously if we're doing sci-fi horror next week, if you feel like joining us for that, you are invited and you are most welcome. And Steve will give it back to me because I picked this movie, unless you don't want to pick the movie on a sci-fi horror movie to watch. So.
Give me some time to look at it, and then I'll let you know.
No problem. So, and we got a hell yeah from Mike. So, I wish I had my Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'd be like, oh hell yeah, dun, 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 dun. You know, rattlesnakes coming out. Steve, you know what? Mike even looks like the rattlesnake to a certain degree. So, you know, you can come out and walk out and got some brews and doing the whole thing. Now we're gonna. That's it. When we introduce you on the show, we're gonna have the breaking glass and everything. So you're gonna come out to the show like that. All right. Enough of that. I am segueing. I'm going down rabbit holes. I've been way too long. This is the third podcast I've been on today. I'm on another one for 2 hours after this. So my brain is a little fried. So on behalf of myself and Steve, Comic Crusaders and Cinema Crusaders, thank you everybody for watching this episode of Cinema Crusaders. As always, we do this because we want to bring these movies to all of you, and we hope you enjoy them. Whatever you're planning to do this weekend, if you can, find a nice comfy chair. Get yourself some popcorn, maybe somebody to snuggle up against, and enjoy yourself a movie. But whatever you do, you have a great weekend and party on. We'll talk to you later. On behalf of Cinema Crusaders, I am Nim. That was Shadewing. And, I got to give a shout out. Make sure you check out the Fellowship of the D20. Search for it on YouTube. This Sunday afternoon, we're going to be playing another episode of Barovia this time, I think. We're doing Strahd. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I believe it is Curse of Strahd, yes.
Yeah, we're going to be doing Barovia, Curse of Strahd, and then we're also going to be bringing back the Alien role-playing game. So that is going to be a lot of fun as well. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to be, and I think next time I get to D&D, it'll be eventually working towards Vecna, the Nest of the Eldritch Eye.
Cool. Very cool. Can't wait to do that. So check that out. That is some great role-playing action, and you can check that out on those channels. So on behalf of us, thank you for watching the show. Please support everybody who is out there creating stuff. Go check out The Dread, available on Amazon right now, who is which was written by our new crusader for the next couple months, Mike Nunnally.
And edited by me.
Yep, and edited by Steve. Go check out Steve. Where can they find your books before I get us out of here?
Yeah, I believe they're available on Amazon at the moment. I think there should be still on Wicked Publishing and on the Anyone store, but I'll have to double check on some of those.
Okay, so go check those out. And Space Monkeys will be coming to you officially. It's in pre-launch now, but I'm going to be starting the official promos for that next week. So you'll see some stuff on that next week on the pod. Until then,
Global Comics. Yeah, I forgot about that.
All right. Till then, thank you, everybody. We're out of here, and you all have a great weekend. On out.